Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the football podcast. I believe that Matt is not available, so it's just Paul and Stu going through games from last week and games to come. Before we get started, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review, which is the big one, the one we like the most. Share that podcast around, people. If you know somebody that likes the football, maybe they'll like this. Send it their way, find out. Right, let's get started. Here we go. This is CookieCast, football podcast.
Good evening. Good afternoon. Literally 2 a.m. when you're reading this. Listening. Ooh.
Sorry, your sound dropped out for a minute then, Paul, as well, so that was a cracking start all round.
I mean, honestly, just like when Andy gets this to do the tidying up on, he's going to really enjoy this.
I mean, everybody's going to just finally realise that all the magic happens in post-production now. That's the...
But yes, welcome along, ladies and gentlemen. It's another week of your football fix right here on the CookieCast Podcast Network. And for those of you joining us on YouTube, it's once again just a twofer this week, ladies and gentlemen. Just myself and Mr. Stuart Woodmansey. Sadly, Mr. Moore unable to join us once again, but he will be back, I promise. So let's waste no further time and we'll dive straight back in with the first game of last week, and it was Sporting Club de Braga versus Nottingham Forest in the Europa League. I unfortunately wasn't able to see any of this, but I believe the game can be summed up by about a 50-second period in the second half, and then something that happened just before the final whistle. Would that be an accurate statement?
Pretty much. Forest were I managed to actually watch some of this, so I mean, count yourself lucky, Paul. I'm sure Matt would be saying the same. But count yourself lucky that you didn't is what I would suggest. The Forest players, or in fact, actually no, we'll start with the stadium stuff because it was a game in Europe. The stadium didn't have stands behind the goals, so you'd think that the opposite two stands would be absolutely packed, right?
So, have you seen this stadium before?
Yes, last week when I watched the game.
So, do you know why it's the way it is?
Is it like on a mountain or something?
So look, it's basically in a quarry,
right?
So they can't put stands at either end because it is basically just rock face.
And that is fine. But when your team are playing in Europe and you only have 2 stands, why aren't they full? They were honestly, the commentators spent the first half of the setup saying about how the Forest supporters outnumbered the home fans, and it's in the arse end of nowhere.
Yeah, that's bad.
So the first half went so well that the Forest fans booed them off at half time. However, it was 0-0 still at half-time. But then, as Paul rightly pointed out, there was a couple of minutes within the second half which kind of determined the game in the end. Morgan Gibbs-White had the chance to put Forest in front. And for the second time, I think, in Europe this season, missed his penalty. What ensued after that was essentially Braga went up the other end, put a ball in, and it hit Ryan Yates' leg and crept in the back post for an own goal. So that was a bit of self-destruction of the highest order. Braga seemed to be spurred on instantly by the penalty. It was I think if they'd have ridden it out for another sort of 5 minutes or so, they probably wouldn't have been anywhere near. But they definitely enjoyed the role of the underdog and the fact that Forest were just sort of falling apart. I mean, I can't tell you about squad rotation or anything like that. Matt would be the expert there, but it didn't seem to me that there were a lot of different players playing for what I would expect. But I don't know if maybe it's just the amount of games sort of catching up with them at the moment. Christmas period, FA Cup, straight back into the European fixtures. They just every single one of them on that pitch looked absolutely knackered. It didn't. I mean, I know I'm sort of the nominated person on the podcast to talk about how the fact that the refs are crap, but it didn't. It didn't help that, like the with the stadium not having the ends on it, every gust of wind that knocked over the Braga players seemed to be a free kick. And I think this is what possibly then contributed to the 94th minute red card for Elliot Anderson. It was bizarre. The ref just blew up and sent him off. The ball wasn't even anywhere near him. And when they showed the video replay, they showed the one from far away of Elliot Anderson turning around and clearly gesturing and saying something to the referee. I think probably to save him a little bit, they chose not to show the close-up of his face for those lip readers out there. But it was an instant dismissal and away you went. So obviously now Forest will be without him. Presumably, is it just for the European competition, or will it carry into the league?
Yeah, I don't think it goes to domestic games. I believe it is just solely for European competitions. So,
but I think
which is weird because I believe that if he was say playing abroad, and got sent off in a league game, and then got transferred into the Premier League, I believe the ban would sort of roll over to the domestic game for the league that he joined. Because there was the only reason I know that is because there was a scenario about 20 or so years ago when Borough signed a player called Emmanuel Pogatet, and in his one of his last games that he played for the team they signed him from, he was involved in an incident where I think he either broke a guy's leg or he was under investigation for sort of potential dangerous play or something like that. And there was talk that he was potentially going to get like a 6-month ban. Or something like that, and they'd signed him with this thing hanging over his head. Obviously, nothing ever came of it and stuff like that. But yeah, well, so it should just be European.
I think with the way that it fell as well, if Forest had won the game, they had the opportunity to sort of put themselves comfortably into the top sort of 7 or 8 of the standings. And now the way it's fallen, that they're down to 16th. They are needing to win now. Their last game, aren't they? But I think. But it depends. They're now relying on other results for if they end up in the playoffs or not. Is that right?
Well, I think that they're basically. I think they are through, to all intents and purposes. So they're on. I'm looking.
They're 16th. 11 points.
11 points.
Yeah.
The team in. Oh no, they are through because the team in 25th, which is as far down as it goes. I think. So I think it's 1 to 8 goes through automatically, and then it's 9 to 60. No, 9 to 24 goes into the playoffs. And the team in 25th, they're on 7 points.
Yeah.
So even if they lose the game next week against Ferencvaros, the worst they can end up on is 11 points, and as it stands, it would need Celtic and everyone above them to win their game to be either level on points or higher than them.
And without looking at the fixtures, some of them are going to be playing each other, aren't they? So
I would be amazed if they weren't. So yeah, Forest are basically they're guaranteed a playoff spot. It's touch and go whether they can get into the automatics or not, because again, Betis are the team in 8th, and they're already on 14 points.
Yeah.
So Forest would need to win and hopefully get a bit of help from somebody else. And they are the only team they can catch. Because you've got, strangely enough, Ferencvaros in 7th on 15 points, so they can't even get as high as that. So it's looking like it's basically looking more and more likely that they'll have a playoff game to play It's just a case of how far up they get to know who they might be playing, basically.
But yeah, it sort of soured it with a red card at the end, having, that they'd already not played particularly well. And that sort of just compounded it a little further.
Not an ideal Thursday evening for Mr. Deitch and his boys. And also, not an ideal evening for us right here on the podcast, as none of us had a Braga 1-0 win. In fact, of the two of us, I was the only one who had Braga scoring a goal at all. I'd gone for a 1-1 draw with Horta and Igor Jesus to score the goals. Stuart had gone for a 1-0 Forest win with Hudson and Doy to score. So no points for either of us. Sadly, Matt did not get any predictions in, so it's just me and Stu riding solo or duo, which is probably a more accurate statement, for predictions, as solo is not one person. No, solo very much is one person, and we are more than one person. I'll tell you something. Unless if you weren't aware, you might think I've never been to a day of formal education in my life. It's hard to believe that I've got a degree in. Yeah, we won't go into that. So the second game of the week took us to the weekend, and it was a 12:30 kickoff for my lot Middlesbrough against Preston North End, and this was live on the Sky Sports Plus channel. And for a change, Borough didn't actually start as the hot team on this one. They were actually a little bit under the cosh for the first sort of 4 or 5 minutes in this one, and potentially a little bit lucky to have not had a penalty given against them. Ball was played into the box from a Preston corner. I've watched this back about 4 or 5 times. I still can't work out what happens in my head, because Matt Target, the ball sort of like bounces up off Matt Target. He goes to, I think he then tries to reset himself to basically volley the ball away, because obviously he's just trying to get it out of danger. But I don't know if he's lent into it or what, or if it's his hand must like graze the ball when it's like bouncing, and it puts him right off. So he basically then like swipes at it, does manage to, and then eventually the ball's like scrambled away. But Preston, I think, ended up with a corner off the back of it. But the ref was looking right at it and didn't give it as a penalty. But it's one of those ones where I don't think he could complain if it was given. Did you see this?
No, you know what? I haven't seen any of that. All I've seen was, I think it was not to put too much of a spoiler on it, but one of the later goals, shall I say?
No. Well, what Mr. Woodmansey is referring to is the fact that Middlesbrough won this game, and not by 1 goal, but by 4. That's great. They opened the scoring on 9 minutes, and it was the informed man who's currently playing out of position, right back Alan Brown. I don't know if he's played right back or right wing back or something of that sort in the past, but at the moment he's taken to it like a duck to water, and it's weird because he took the number that Johnny Howson had from the last season and the entire time he's been at the Borough, and it's weird because at times Johnny Howson used to play like auxiliary right back for the Borough, so it's kind of comforting that we've got the same numbered guy doing the exact same job that was being done for the past like 5 seasons.
Do you reckon they've done it just in case like people haven't noticed?
Do you know what? There's probably some people. Howson still got it, man. Oh, he's still good. It's like, yeah, he probably still does have it, mate. But unfortunately, he's coaching the Leeds under-18s at the moment, so don't really know what to tell you there. But yeah, he'd managed to get himself forward right into the mix, and it was a fantastic ball from Matt Target. Ooh, lucky boy. Obviously, didn't give the penalty away, but his vision was incredible. He spotted that Brown had peeled off around the back. Lovely little sort of clipped ball into the box. Brown had shrugged off a tackle on the edge of the box and had the freedom of the entire 18-yard area to control it and just slip it through the keeper's legs to make it 1-0. He almost had a bit of a carbon copy chance a few minutes later. Luke Ayling played a little ball into his feet in the box. He shifted it onto the left foot, tried to curl it in the bottom corner, but put it wide. But it was 2 on the 28th minute, and it was that man again, Luke Ayling, who spotted that Tommy Conway had made a run from his own half. He'd sort of peeled off from the defender and went straight through. Ayling played the ball first time, lovely little sort of round the corner ball for Conway to latch onto, took a touch, outpaced the defender, tried to stick it through the keeper's legs. Keeper got a touch on it, but it still ended up in the back of the net to make it 2-0 to the Borough after 28 minutes. The new signing from a couple of weeks ago, Leo Castledine, was in for his first start, and he drew a save from the keeper down to his left. That eventually resulted in a Borough corner. And I can't remember from the timeline if it was from that corner or just from a subsequent corner that Borough got further into the half that they made it 3 on the 42nd minute. Whittaker had taken the corner. It came to nothing. The keeper released the ball to his defender on the edge of his box. The defender obviously wasn't paying attention as Whittaker was tracking in off the back of his corner, nicked the ball from him, took a touch, stuck the ball straight past the keeper to make it 3-0. That was how it went at half time. We moved into the second half, and 5 minutes in, Preston's task was made all the more difficult as Jordan Storey found himself with a straight red card. Another one where the ball was played into him. He's taken a touch, hasn't seen that Tommy Conway's closing him down. Conway gets the ball. He's pushing away to go, streak away and score. Storey falls over and pulls down Tommy Conway's shorts at the same time as he's hitting the deck. Quite clear and obvious for the ref to give the red card. He's the last man. There was a guy sort of coming round on the cover, but he's literally on the halfway line. Conway's got a good 20 yards on him if he's away and clear through. So pretty straightforward red card. Preston already 3-0 down to 10 men. Game was over before that case anyway, but even more difficult. And Borough made it 4 on the 54th minute, and it was Tommy Conway once again. So he's had his little drought. He's had a little drought of scoring, and he's now got 3 in his last 2 games. It was the new boy Castledine who had a free kick from the edge of the box over the wall. Keeper with a save was only able to push it straight into the path of Tommy Conway, who was the first to react, and stuck the ball home from about 6 yards out. Borough could have made it 5 when Alex Gilbert picked up the ball around the edge of the box, but the keeper got down to it well, pushed it around the post. After that, a couple of chances for either side, nothing really worth noting. A 4-0 thumping for Preston after they'd been bitch slapped by the Tigers more than 3 days earlier.
Very much a case of anything you can do, we can do better, it seems, because you even got the red card thrown in there as well.
Yeah, true. Yeah. So yes, not a good week for Preston in relation to our podcast, shall we say? And this was made even better.
I think it was a very good week for Preston in relation to our podcast, isn't it?
Well, yes, but this was made all the better for Borough in the fact that later on Saturday, Ipswich lost to Sheffield United, which meant the gap between them and Borough is now 5 points. Ipswich do have a game in hand, but obviously that game in hand would mean that if they win it, they go back above Borough. And then on Monday night, Norwich did everyone a favour by beating Coventry City, which meant that the gap at the top is only 3 points. Around Christmas time, that gap was as many as 10. So Borough making it very, very interesting at the top end of the table. Predictions-wise, it's points all around. Stuart gone for a 3-1 Borough win. Hackney, Bergsorgen, Whittaker, with Whiteman to score for Preston. So a point there for the Whittaker goal, and obviously a point for the 3-1. I went for a 2-0 Borough win and had Conway and Whittaker as 2 of my goal scorers. So I get 3 points there. Stu has 2. Third game of the week took us to Saturday afternoon, 3 p.m., and it was Hull City versus Swansea City. Just how good was this in person?
Well, let's get into it, shall we? When they say football is a game of two halves, this is absolutely the advert for it. Hull were pretty dominant for most of the first half, although there were chances for the visitors. But then they became almost non-existent in the second. The first goal arrived on the 24th minute, and that came from the penalty spot. Just before this, Hull had a free kick. It was at like the right-hand edge of the 18-yard box, swung in by Hadzi Amatovic. And Swansea captain Ben Cabango went what can only be described as full Superman. His hand above his head as he tried to fly off into the night sky or the afternoon skies of Hull. And he just palmed the ball out of play. Ben, if you're listening, you're a centre-back, not a goalkeeper. It was possibly one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen. Like, he wasn't even... I've seen it happen before where a centre-back's tried to disguise it by like putting their hand almost on top of their head just to give them an extra couple of inches, as it were. But not like a full extended arm where it's given them like a foot on everybody else. It was just weird. It was such a strange decision. And as well, club captain. Okay. So yeah, Hull penalty converted to the bottom left-hand corner by Ollie McBurney. And soon after this, though, Swansea had two big chances. Both of them fell to Vipotnik, who's in pretty good form at the moment. But you wouldn't have noticed this by watching him in this game. There was a ball in from the left-hand side, completely beat the Hull defence for a tap-in from 6 yards or less at the back post. Managed to spoon it wide. And then a few minutes after that, pretty much the same again. Just in the 6-yard box again. Wide it went again. It was just, when you're expecting to see the net bulge and there's like, when you're in the stadium, there's that moment of like silence before the crowd just, well, it kind of stayed silent because there was probably the best part of maybe 3 to 350 Swansea fans in the ground anyway. There was not many had made the trip, but you can't blame them. It's a long way from South Wales. Not long after this, they were made to pay. On 39 minutes, Liam Miller absolutely danced his way into the left side of the penalty area. Took on one, took on two. Couldn't beat the third, but the ball did come loose after a tackle collected on the edge of the area by Regan Slater, who unleashed an absolute rocket to the keeper's left. That made it 2-0. In the post-match interview that he gave, he said just recently he's been carrying a bit of an ankle injury, so he's been trying not to hit the ball too hard. And whilst he very much enjoyed the goal, he said it also hurt his foot, which made me laugh. He's fine, like he's not going to be out injured or anything.
That's such a first world problem, isn't it? Yeah, I scored an absolute belter, but it hurt my foot a little bit.
Miller did have a chance to make it 3-0 before half-time. Tried to put it in the top right to the keeper's near post, but he just got it a touch too high and it went over the bar. And then the Swansea keeper just kept his team basically in the game with another couple of decent stops from different players just before half-time. Like I say, then the second half happened. Swansea made one change at half-time, and whatever the manager had said to them, whether it was "you're walking home, lads, if you don't pull your finger out," I'm not so sure, but they were a completely different side. Hull barely had the ball in the first 20 minutes of the half, which was awful for me to watch. The visitors did get a goal during that spell as well on the 59th minute. They ended up winning a corner. As route one as you're going to get, glancing header at the near post, beat the keeper, and it went. And you can't say that they didn't deserve it either. So yeah, 2-1 to Hull at that point. Hull did have a chance, however, a little bit after that period pass to make it 3-1. New signing Yu Hirakawa picked up the ball pretty much on the halfway line on the left touchline, beat 3 Swansea players and was absolutely steaming towards the box. Smashed a shot goalwards, which the Swansea keeper parried, and Kyle Joseph ended up having his rebound saved by the keeper having recovered. So the Swansea keeper definitely earning his money in this one. The rest of the chances after that pretty much all fell to the visitors, but we managed to hang on. Hull win the game 2-1, and now the statistic, which, whilst you love to hear it, technically also means nothing as well, but there is no team that have gained more points in the Championship in their last 9 games than Hull. In fact, there are no team in the English Football League, Premier League, down to League 2 that have gained more league points since the 29th of November. So that kind of shows the role that they're on. But we all know what's coming next, ladies and gentlemen. Watch this space for next week where we get absolutely smashed by Blackburn again. Hooray!
It's another game, though, however, where it's points on the prediction front. Stuart gone for a 2-0 home win with goals for Gelhardt and McBurney. So a bonus point for the McBurney goal and a point for the correct result. I had gone for a 2-1 home win, so 2 points for the correct score. I also had Gelhardt and McBurney as my goal scorers. I had Vipotnik for the Swansea goal. So I get a bonus point for the McBurney goal and the 2 points for the whole correct score. Our final game of the week won't be discussed in great lengths, sadly, as I was unable to watch Brentford versus Nottingham Forest. I did kind of see the goals, however. So Forest got a 2-0 win here. Igor Jesus opened the scoring on 12 minutes. This was like a ball into the box. He's right, quite wide right, almost in line with the post, about 5 yards out. And he almost like as if it was like up in the air, and he's been able to control it and hit it on the swivel, turn and finish like low underneath the keeper. Good finish, to be fair, as the angle was tight. And then obviously Brentford pushing to try and get it back in the game, and Forest were able to kill it off in the 79th minute when Taiwo Awoniyi's first goal in a while. And I think this was just one where he picks the ball up around the halfway line. Bit of a mazy dribble. Matt sent us a link to the goal and said, quite funny this, at no point does he ever look like he's in control. And I couldn't have summed that up more perfectly myself. Definitely one of those ones where he's trying to sort of control it whilst trying to run with it and get quicker as he's doing it. And he's doing none of it, but he still manages to keep the ball just within arm's length. And yeah, just a sort of a smart finish to get it past the keeper. So 2-0 Nottingham Forest win. Very much needed, as West Ham had picked up 3 points earlier in the weekend with a home win over Sunderland. So Nottingham Forest needed to win to get the gap back between themselves and West Ham in the bottom 3. Neither of us had a Forest win here, so no points for the results. Stu went 1-0 Damsgaard, 0 points there. I went 1-1 and had an Igor double. I had Igor Thiago to score for Brentford and Igor Jesus to score for Forest. So I did back myself a point for the goal scorer. So all that means is after 4 games, Stu, a very respectable 4 points for the week. But I do win, in inverted commas, with 7 points from the 4 games. Ooh, very happy with that little return, so to speak. So that brings us to the end of week 22. We will take a very short break. We'll step away. And when we come back, we'll have some predictions for week 23. And we'll also go through some transfer news for the 3 clubs. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. And just like that, the break is over, and we are right back at it, ladies and gentlemen. So, week 22, done and dusted. before we get into week 23, there is transfer updates. So just the one in from a Nottingham Forest perspective, there is talk of a couple of outgoings, but they're not official yet. So we'll leave them for this week, and we'll go back to those once they're made official. But the one official in is that Nottingham Forest is pleased to confirm the signing of a Lorenzo Luca, who joins from Napoli on loan, with the club holding an option to make the deal permanent in the summer. The Italian striker enjoyed a fine season in the Italian top flight in 2024-25 and was Udinese's top scorer, netting 14 times. Having initially joined on loan from Pisa, Luca registered 29 goal involvements in his 75 appearances across 2 seasons for Udinese. Long story short, he's been capped 5 times for the Italian national team and joined Napoli in the summer of 2025. He's joining Forest because I can only presume he can't fucking score or get a game at Napoli. So let's send him out on loan. Let's see if he does anything. Why are Forest signing a striker? I hear you ask. What's that? He's 6'7" tall. Sorry, if you listen carefully, I believe that you can hear Sean Dyche's erection from right there.
I knew he was going to say that.
Yeah, 6'7", beanpole striker. If you don't think that Nottingham Forest are about to be peppering the box with balls, you are sadly mistaken. So I would imagine that everyone at the City Ground is going to be getting neck cramps from doing this for the remainder of the season. But hopefully he can come in, get a few goals. It didn't say whether they've been able to register him for the European games. But I would imagine if they are, they won't be able to register him in time for the remaining league game they've got. It would probably just be from the playoff round onwards. But we'll see. So that's the Forest news. From a Borough perspective, I'll tell you what, we'll go to Hull first. We'll come back to Borough because I can't actually remember if they've sold anyone, but they definitely have brought one in.
Okay,
So we'll go to Hull.
Yeah, we've had one out and one in. The out, Casey Palmer has gone for the time being at the very least. He's been loaned to Luton for the remainder of the season. And again, not to date the podcast too much, is currently making his debut for Luton and was involved in a sending off incident when he was playing the ball through the middle of the park, and a gentleman on the Huddersfield team decided to stop him by pulling his hair. Ridiculous. Anyway, so Casey Palmer on loan to Luton. I am a bit gutted about this because I think he's decent and I really like Casey Palmer, but his time at Hull hasn't really worked out so far. I would suspect he's probably played his last game for the club, if I'm honest. Couple of injuries. One when he was on his on international duty meant that his time has been a little bit stop-start. And then just to cap that off, I think he'd had a bit of a ding-dong with the manager just before Christmas and then got injured again. Not because of the ding-dong with the manager, but just the timings of the things didn't exactly work out for him. And he's sort of been reduced to bit part substitution appearances whenever he's featured. Slightly more positive news. The in is Kieran Dowell. He's signed from Rangers on an 18-month contract. Now, obviously, I hear you cry, but hang on a minute. Hull are subject to a transfer on Bongo. Well, currently, yes, we are until summer. But his contract with Rangers was cancelled by mutual consent, which meant that he was free to pursue other options, and Hull did not mess around. He's an attacking midfielder. He scored 10 goals in 43 appearances for none other than Nottingham Forest in the 17-18 season, and that included a hat-trick against Hull. He also had loans at Sheffield United, Derby, and Wigan, where at the latter, he also scored another hat-trick against Hull. So I can only presume that they've just decided to sign him so that he can't play against us, is the thing. But he has also had a spell in the Premier League with Norwich, and he was with Birmingham last year, helping them lift the League One title. So he's experienced is the word I think we throw in at this point. Some might say journeyman. Let's go with experienced. But yeah, that's the in. He actually came on for a little bit during the Swansea game. Not enough to really get a read on sort of what he's going to be like, to be honest. It was probably only the last sort of, I want to say sort of 5 or 6 minutes. But yeah, not. We'll reserve judgment until we've seen a little bit more.
It's a player that I would be excited about because the bits I have seen of him, he did look like he's a very good player. Obviously, for one reason or another, this move to Rangers hasn't worked out for him. I don't know if it's just because the sort of the pace of the Scottish Premiership is just, I don't know, loads slower than the English Championship. You'd like to think they're probably on a similar level. So I think it's a good signing, and obviously he's now ticked off 2 of our clubs. So inevitably, at some point in the next 5 to 6 years, he will have to sign for the Borough. So watch this space. Was all I will say. Just the one in at the Borough. I did think that was the case, and it is a loan with a view to making the deal permanent in the summer, should they wish to do so. And it's a bit of an on-off saga that's finally been confirmed. And it's Jeremy Sarmiento, who joins initially on loan from Brighton and Hove Albion. Yeah, like I said, potentially for the loan to become permanent at the end of the loan period, subject to the terms of the deal. He's a bit of a promotion specialist from the Championship, as the last 2 seasons he was on loan with Ipswich when they won promotion in 2024, and he was on loan at Burnley last season when they went up. So let's hope he can make it 3 out of 3 in a row for the Borough. Just another option in the top end of the pitch. I believe he's one of those players who can. He probably will play on one of the wide forward things, but probably can play through the middle as well. So it'll be interesting to see where he slots in. So that's all the transfer news. So that just leaves us to go through week 23's games, and much similar to last week, the first game starts us off in Europe as Nottingham Forest taking on Ferencvaros in what is not must win, but must win if they don't want to play a playoff game. Obviously, it's all irrelevant if Betis get even a point in their final game. So, Forest go into this knowing they really should go out to win it. Whether they will or not, who knows? Obviously, it's Matt's team, but he's not here, and he hasn't sent me any predictions, so he won't be able to give his prediction last. So I'll jump in. I have gone with Forest to win, and I've gone for Forest to win 2-1. I've gone for Igor Jesus and Callum Hudson-Odoi to score Forest, and I've gone for some guy called Yusuf to score for Ferencvaros. Interesting fact, Ferencvaros' head coach is Robbie Keane.
Huh.
Interesting. What have you got down for Forest versus Ferencvaros?
I've gone for this to be the Morgan Gibbs-White revenge mission from missing the penalty in the last game. I'm not saying he will score a penalty in this one, but I've gone 1-0 Forest with him to score, just for a bit of a redeemer.
1-0 with MG Dubs. Yeah, I've been saying it for the last couple of weeks. I don't know if there's something going on off the pitch that we just don't know about, but he just doesn't seem the same player to me. But strange. Second game of the week. takes us to Saturday. And let me just double check. Was this an early kickoff? He says it was not. It's a 3 p.m. Therefore, it won't be on TV. And it's Blackburn Rovers versus Hull City. Blackburn's not too far away. That's the correct. For those of you not watching on YouTube, those of you just listening to the podcast, Mr. Woodmansey shook his head there. And I can only presume that he shook his head because it's Blackburn. If there's even a trace of rain in the air, this one will get called off or abandoned for a waterlogged pitch.
Well, I have
he's
to
done.
say,
He's done the right call.
In weeks gone by, I've obviously slagged them off for having a game cancelled because of the pitch situation. But I, since that point, have very much entered the glass house and therefore shall no longer be throwing stones. However, they have visited the MKM twice this season. Both were disastrous, but in different ways, in the sense of the first time we got absolutely pumped because Hull just couldn't be asked. The second time, we went all the way to penalties in a 0-0 FA Cup game, which I can only conclude added to the 11 first-team injuries that we had shortly after that. But I suppose they did win on penalties to get that plum tie with Chelsea. But yeah, I wasn't enthused about going to Blackburn, but apparently that feeling wasn't shared because they actually sold out of their initial allocation of tickets for the away end, obviously.
Blackburn's one of those ones where, because they don't get a big home crowd, I think they just try and give as many tickets away as possible. Please come and give us money. Yeah, and from what I've never been to Blackburn, but I do want to go at some point because I do think it is one of my better chances at getting an away ticket for the borough. Let's put it that way, because again, they have a big stand. I believe they can get up to 7,000 in it. So if they're willing to give the tickets, it's one that could potentially happen. Right, so it's Mr. Woodmansey's team, so he will give his prediction last. I've gone for a 2-1 away win. I've gone for Ohashi to score for Blackburn, and then I've gone for a goal for Gelhardt and Hirakawa. I've liked what I've seen so far, so yeah, wouldn't be surprised if he pops up with a goal at some point in the very near future. What have you got down for Blackburn versus Hull?
Almost the exact same, but without the second Hull goal.
No.
We can't keep winning. I really don't want us to lose to Blackburn. I couldn't bring myself to put another Blackburn win down to make it the league double. So I have gone for a 1-1 draw with Ohashi and Gelhardt to score.
Aha, I see what you mean.
I agree what you're saying about Hirakawa, though. He's definitely got a goal or 2 or 3 in him if he carries on the way that he's been playing. And it is refreshing to see somebody with so much confidence to just keep trying to blaze past people and actually doing it. It's like, why have Bristol had him as surplus to requirements would be my question, when, like, from what we've seen so far, he would walk straight into any of the championship sides. Granted, it's not, we've only seen him a few games, but it's the guy's got off to a great start at Hull, and hopefully that'll continue.
Yes, indeed. Fingers crossed. Our third game of the week remains on Saturday, remains at 3 p.m, and sees my lot Middlesbrough taking on Norwich City, the team they have to give a great deal of thanks to for making the gap at the top of the division only 3 points. It's obviously my team. I will give my prediction second, which means we go straight back to Mr. Woodmansey for his prediction on Middlesbrough versus Norwich.
Probably not the best outlook, but it's not the worst either. I have gone for the Desmond.
Ooh.
So Middlesbrough 2, Norwich 2, and in the words of the Portuguese commentator that I watched the other week during the FA Cup weekend, Aidan Acne for one of the goals. And it's almost like he was Portuguese Hull, by the way that he pronounced it as well. And Castledine to get off the mark for the Borough as well.
Lovely.
And then for Norwich, I've gone for Makama and Schwartau.
Wow. Lovely stuff. I actually do have a friend who's going to this game who is a Norwich fan. He is not optimistic. But then again, he'd do well on this podcast actually because he's one of the most pessimistic people I've ever met. So always thinks that Norwich are going to lose. Very rarely seems happy with the performances and stuff like that. So again, would fit in really well. I've gone for a 2-1 Borough win here. Although I am a little bit reluctant to do that because obviously Borough are on a run of 4 wins on the spin. And the last time they had that, they lost at Bristol City. I will stick with it though. So I've gone for Conway and Whittaker to both continue their good streak of form. And I've also gone for Makama to score for Norwich. Our fourth game of the week takes us back to the City Ground and sees Nottingham Forest taking on Crystal Palace. One thing we should have potentially covered in the rumours was that the Forest Palace saga doesn't seem to be letting up at any time soon, as Forest today were credited with an interest in Matthew Moore's favourite striker of all time, Jean-Philippe Mateta. And apparently they've put in a bit of rumoured to be £35 million, which apparently is £5 million short of Crystal Palace's asking price. I dare we suggest that if that one was to go through, that the brains of the collective Crystal Palace fan base would be melted in one fell swoop, as Forest took not only the Europa League spot, but then their best striker. Yes, we will see. So Nottingham Forest versus Crystal Palace, live on the Sky Sports Plus channel. Stu, what have you gone for in the Forest Palace game?
I have gone for a Nottingham Forest 1-0 win with Mateta.
Ooh.
No, I'm kidding. No, I've gone for Dominguez.
Okay.
Don't feel like he scores many. Feel like the game's going to be pretty physical because of the background to it, and I'm hoping that he can just muscle one.
Just flicking back through the games, he did of course score against West Ham. So he has scored within the past couple of weeks. I'm in agreement. I've also gone for a win for Nottingham Forest, but I've gone for a 2-0 win. I've gone for Hutchinson and Gibbs-White to get the goals. So we'll see. We'll see if that comes to pass. And our final game of the week is the rearranged fixture from Flamethrower Gate. Are we classing it as, or Ice Gate, Sprinkler Gate? I don't know.
I was going to make a joke about it just been edging around the pitch, but I'll leave that be.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah,
simply lovely.
The pitch was fine. Just the groundsmen have a problem with edging, it seems. So, yeah.
So Hull City versus Watford. Obviously, it's Mr. Woodmansey's team. Therefore, he will give the prediction last. This one is live on Tuesday, but I don't actually know if they're allowed to put this on because it's a rearranged fixture from a Saturday.
Yeah, there is.
So I don't know if they're allowed because, yeah, it's strange.
Well,
but as it stands, it's not currently listed as a televised fixture. So let's just put it like that.
Obviously, I will be going. As I feel bad as well that it was it was a game that my boys were scheduled to be able to attend with me. Even though it's a school night, I'm tempted, if they behave themselves, to let them come and watch that one purely so they don't miss a game, really. But we shall see. We shall see.
Obviously, it's a tasty one as well, as both teams are in and around the playoffs and the playoff run. So, but then again, all games at this particular point are tasty, with Hull being where they are and Borough being where they are, obviously. But so it's Mr. Woodmansey's team. He will give the last prediction of the week. I've gone for a bit of a fence sit on this one. I've gone for a 1-1 draw. I've gone for Crooks to score for Hull, and the old boy rule very much in effect. I believe he got a hat trick a couple of weeks ago, so he's very much in the public thoughts. I've gone for Tom Ince to score for Watford.
Old boy rule.
Bit of a blast from the past. But he rolled back the years a couple of weeks ago, and I think he might do it again for Watford next Tuesday. Yeah, so over to you to end us for the week.
Well, as I keep saying, this run isn't really going to last forever. Watford are one of them teams that are kind of in and around and are just generally fucking annoying. Like, they're never good enough to really make the playoffs fully, and they're never really bad enough to just tank it and like be near the bottom of the league either. They seem to have like this equilibrium achieved by beating teams that they might not they shouldn't be beating necessarily, and then losing to teams that they should. And I know that's a familiar story to a lot of football fans, or as it would seem. I kind of feel like they'll be up for it because of what happened with the pitch situation. I've actually got Watford to win 1-0, which is a bit disappointing. But purely in the spirit of Matthew Moore not being here, I feel like I need to continue this one for the team. So I've got Kerem Gard to score for Watford. Paul is currently getting the squad list out and a dictionary.
Technically, I should already know how to spell this one, as I believe it's already in the book. So let's just go back. When did we have those games? So, oh, God damn it. No one predicted him when it was that game. That means I'm going to have to go back to the Borough game when Borough were beaten by Watford. Wrexham. No. Watford, there we go. KJ. Yes. ERR. Yes. UM. Yes. GAARD. Nailed it.
Yes.
So, interestingly enough, let's actually journey back and see what we all predicted for the uh, 4th of January game. Was it the 4th of January?
It should have. Yeah, it will have been around there.
Right. What do you, if you can remember that far back, what do you think you went for originally as your prediction?
I'll be able to find it because the book is in hand.
Indeed.
I went for a Watford win that day as well.
He did indeed. He went for a 2-1. Yeah, he went McBurney, Chakmatadze, and Kiprianu. Matt, strange enough, had gone for a 2-1 Hull win. Slater and Darla and Chakmatadze. I went exactly the same way. I went for a 1-1 draw, but I did have Miller and Loser as my 2 goal scorers. So I've changed up my goal scorers, but not my prediction. So that brings us to the end, ladies and gentlemen, of this week's predictions. So I will close the book. Is there anything else you wanted to discuss at this particular point?
Just a nice point from the very end of the Swansea game. The game was brought to a close by the referee, and as Paul mentioned, we've been very impressed by what we've seen of Hirakawa so far. But not only is that on the pitch, but also off the pitch. Looks like he's been doing a bit of searching online for things that are relating to his new club and his new area and stuff. And I'd happened to come across some posts online from the mother of a small, young one who had been going through a bit of a tough time at school, been taking a bit of flack for something that's, there's nothing that they can do about it, really. Kid had been having a hard time. And he personally replied to the mum and said, if you're at the game at the weekend, then you can have my shirt. And it turns out, actually, that this kid was in front of us at the bottom of the family stand, first few rows. And true to his word, he came across and he brought his shirt from... he had a shirt from the first half and then one that he wore for the second, presumably. But yeah, he gave the young kid his shirt, which was very nice to see. And the kid had brought like a little sign as well and it wasn't a "can I have your shirt?" It was just like a nice sign for like a little thing of support for Hirakawa himself after the comment that he'd left the mum. So, brand new to the area, brand new to the team, but already making strides towards earning himself a bit of cult status a couple of games in.
Yes, indeed. Another one of those you like to see it stories. It doesn't take an awful lot to be nice, does it? So hopefully those if it is other kids that are being not particularly nice to that particular young child at that school, hopefully they give their heads a shake and rethink the way that they're approaching themselves, shall we say. So that brings us to an end of another week on the Football Podcast. So thank you, as always, to Mr. Woodmansey for taking us through the details of Hull and the ins and outs and what's going on at the Tigers. Join us again next week where we'll break down those games that we predicted just then. The transfer window is due to close on, I believe, the 2nd of Feb. I may have that incorrect, but I believe it's the 2nd of February. I think it's at 5 p.m. It's one of these strange ones where I don't really know why they've extended it for an extra day, and then obviously they've put a weird time in it as well. But either way, the transfer window will be shutting by the time we get to next week's predictions, or will have shut by the time we get to next week's predictions. So we should be able to do a transfer wrap up of all the ins and outs. And then the squads will be set at that point, and we'll know exactly what we've got for the remainder of the season. So yes, so come back, join us again next week when we go through those. Yes, so until then, if you're new around here and you like what you heard, obviously, thanks very much. Why not dig through the back catalogue, the archives, to see if there's anything more in there for you to get your teeth into. There's wrestling podcasts, there's American football podcasts, there's a whole slew of football podcasts. And then, of course, Mr. Cook likes to unfurl the old brain hole every week on his Darkest Timeline podcast. And if you're a fan of the Formula One, we've also got a podcast that covers that as well. Join us again next week. But from now, it's bye-bye from both of us, and we will see you in a week's time. Tatty bye.
So there you go, what do you think of that? Another one done, another one gone. More games in the bag, more games to come. Lovely stuff. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, thank you for being here. Before you leave us, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. And check out the website, thecookiecast.com. There we have social media links and an email button. And that way you can get in touch with us. That's it for this one. Till next time, I'm going to say bye. and I'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to these grumpy old men talk about football. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like, share and subscribe.